so far we've been only working with one promise. What if we want to work with 5 promises? What if you have a forum or a blog post and you want to retrieve all the user data, all of their blog posts, all of their comments from the server, and then after you get all of that, you post it on your forum. But that's really hard if we're only working with one promise at a time, right? Or one fetch, because they're async. This is where promise.all and promise.all_settle comes in. Promise.all takes in an array of promises, just like promise_all_settled. It's going to wait for everything in its array to resolve, and then returns an array with all those resolved values, keeping the same order that you put those in. But if any of those promises are rejected, it stops and it throws an error. It says, hey, promise number 3 in your array got rejected. And then it stops. Whereas promise_all_settled will always return an array with all the values. If it gets rejected, the error object or the error message gets included also. So let's take a look at how all of that works. Now right here, we're fetching all the posts, and then we're fetching all users and fetching all to-dos. What I want is that this placeholder array should have all of the data, right, that came from these. And we don't need this actually. All right, right now if we console.log it, it's empty. Why is that? Remember when we learned about the event loop and the call stack, right? The event loop will look at all of this and say, hey, these are APIs and they're asynchronous. You're gonna go last. This guy goes first. And then this guy. That's why we see an empty array right here. Now, what if we do something like this? Then we get the data, and then we do what? Placeholder dot push data. Does this work? It's inside of a then. No, it still doesn't work. Why? Because these thens follow the fetch, and the fetch is already async, so it doesn't matter. Okay, this runs, and then this runs. Okay, now the way to solve it, like we did on the last challenge, is when we did .then, right? And then inside of this .then, we did another fetch, and then we would fetch one of these, right? And then even after that, when we push everything inside and we want to continue working with placeholder, it would still have to be inside of a .then because of how everything is async. And that's going to get really, really messy, okay? So let's use promise.all. So I'm going to erase this. I'm going to erase that. Okay, to use promise.all, you have to call the promise constructor. So that's capital P, promise.all. Okay, promise.all takes in an array, right? So an array of what? An array of all of these variables that we put. All posts, all to-dos. Oh, let's do it in the correct order. Or all users, all to-dos. Okay, and then what? Then, what do we get? We're gonna get the result back. Okay, the result. Whoops, not that. And then we're gonna console.log result. See what we get. Now we get a nested array, we get the outer array, and then 3 of our fetches result inside. Let's open this up. We get the users, or the posts, I mean. Here we get the users, you see the name. And then here, we get all the to-do list stuff, right? So that is how you use promise.all. Now, what if I mistype this? You see, we don't get anything back. We get uncaught in promise, right? Not resolved. Now, what if we use promise.all settled? It still works. See, we get an error, but it still returns something. Okay? Let's see what it returns. It returns an empty object. Okay, that's because it couldn't find this to-do without an S. Let's put it back. Now it works. Now promise_all_settle works. And promise.all also works. Okay. Now, in real life, These would be used for like cleanup. Let's say you request everything, some things got rejected, something got resolved, and then at the end, you want to do something like refresh your page, disable a button, send a form, or something like that. Those would go inside promise.all because you only want to do those cleanup actions after all of your async actions are finished, right? Okay, I hope that was useful. Let's keep going.